Hi, welcome to episode 56 of A Couple of Things. Today I'm going to be continuing the conversation on being a UX researcher, how to get people interested in research, how to get to talk to people when your team doesn't want you to. And today I'll be focusing on, let's say now you have reached the point where everyone is interested in research, people are coming to ask you to do research and you have more research requests than you can manage. What do you do? So yeah, keep listening. The researcher dream, especially after you've struggled with getting people interested in research, is when everybody is interested in research and they want you to do research. They're coming to ask you to do a survey or to do interviews or asking you what insights you have about a particular topic. So how do you handle that when you're drowning in research requests? There's two parts. There's like creating a system and processes to help you to go through that process. And then there's also how to handle with the individual people coming to meet you one-on-one. In this episode, I will be focusing on the operations, quote unquote, operations research upside of how to handle many research requests. So the first rule of creating systems is when you notice that you're doing the same thing over and over again many times, document what you're doing, what you do, and make it into a template or an SOP, which is called a standard operating procedure, which is basically a step-by-step breakdown of what doing this particular task entails. So for example, before you do a research project, you create a research plan. And if you're doing research constantly, you will have to be creating multiple research plans. So instead of starting from scratch every single time you need to make a research plan, create a template for your research plan and then put in the relevant headlines and subtitles and whatever. And that is something that you can then reuse over and over again. Another example of this, which I'll talk more about in the next episode, is the questions you ask the stakeholder who is coming to you for research, or the stakeholder who's most impacted by the research that you'll be doing. Before doing that research, there were some questions that I saw coming up over and over again whenever I wanted to start any research project and I was engaging with these people. And so what I did was basically put that into a document. You can also do it into a form if you prefer that, or if that's what the tools you use allow you to do, and ask people to fill that out to answer those questions and help you plan your research better. And so that becomes part of your quote unquote standard operating procedure, right? If you want research, fill this form, fill out this document. I will then review it, and then we can discuss and then create the plan and move on. So tip one, if you're doing something over and over again, document it, templatize it, make it into an SOP as applicable. The second thing that you can do is around recruiting. I've talked about how difficult recruiting can be in a couple of previous episodes. And the more you start getting these kinds of requests from people, the more you need to recruit and the more challenging it becomes, especially when you're working on a team where you don't really have enough budget, or there's not yet budget for expensive recruiting tools like using a recruiting panel or one of these other tools that are available. What you can do then is create a panel of your own customer base if you have a customer base. So I did this in a company that I worked at previously, where we were doing a lot of research and we needed to do so much research, and we had a large customer base, and then I got approval to email the entire customer base to invite them to join our panel to participate in research. And so I worked with the content writer to draft an email, and then we sent it out, and we got over 5,000 people in the panel in the first week. And so on that form, they answered questions about what kind of research they wanted to participate in, whether surveys, interviews, home visits, coming into the office, different kinds of things, and other questions that would help me to properly categorize them to know when to contact. And I simply did this in an Excel sheet. Like, you don't need any complicated, complex, fancy tools. You can simply do this in Excel. If you use Google Workspace in your company, you can use Google Sheets. If you have access to Airtable, you can use that. If you use Notion, whatever tool you use in your organization, just stick with that. Like, keep it as very simple as possible for yourself. And then in a B2B context, what you would do then is to connect with all the people who have access to your customers, like I already talked about in the previous episode, and have them help you create like a rolling list of people that you can talk to consistently for research. With lots of research comes lots of insights and reports that need to be made. Something that you can do here to help yourself is to find reports, templates, and examples that you like, inspiration, things that you like, things that you think convey information properly, that help you visualize insights properly in an interesting way, and start compiling all of those things together into a whatever tool you use. So if it's Google Workspace you use, then into Google Slides. If it's Microsoft Office that you use, then PowerPoint. If it's some other tool, whatever tool you use, just compile good examples of visualizing insights that you found, whether it's on Miro, whatever tool, and keep them somewhere so that when it's time for you to do your reports or to visualize your insights, then you can easily just refer to those things without like taking too much time to and just like drowning in how do I approach this, what do I do now. You already have a resource bank of templates and ideas and inspiration for creating your reports. This will help you greatly. So whether it's like you want to create whatever kind of deliverable, be it a persona, customer journey, or some other kind of visualization of whatever insights you want to share, then you know where to go to immediately. The other side in the process conversation is a bit controversial, but really it gets to a certain point where, especially if you're a research team of one and you're working with multiple product managers, you have to democratize research. Like, it gets to that point where you have to empower other people to do research correctly because you can't do everything yourself. And so what you can do is create templates, guides, those templates and guides that you've created in the beginning, and train your team on how to use it. And now, I feel like democratizing research is such a tricky conversation because people think that you're giving away all the parts of the research. But I think the way that democratizing is most effective is when you pick one or two approaches that are appropriate for whoever you're sharing that responsibility with. So I'll give an example. I worked at a company once that had like over 40 products, and I'm not exaggerating. And I was the only researcher on the team. There were over 500 people in the company, and there was absolutely no way I was going to be able to do all the research by myself. And so what I did is I worked with the designers on my team, and I helped them be able to set up their own usability studies. Because like if there was a lot of foundational research work that needed to be done, and there were usability studies that needed to be done at the same time, I couldn't do both. I had to give these usability studies to somebody else to do, and the best I had were the designers on the team. And so I took them through the process of doing usability tests and setting up templates for them, like a research plan templates, how to draft tasks and all those kinds of things so that they could do it by themselves. And then I also did the same thing with the product managers, like effective interviewing skills, how to craft questions, ask questions the right way, note taking, all those kinds of things that will be useful for them because they were already talking to customers anyways. So like, why not help them make the best use of that time? So yeah, one way to deal with an avalanche of research requests is to equip and empower your team to be able to do the work. Yes, research is a skill. It's a highly technical process. It requires different kinds of skills, from properly crafting questions to being able to facilitate and moderate sessions properly, building rapport, all these kinds of things. But at the same time, there are parts of it that can be taught to other people, right? The thing that people who are anti-democratization think is that nobody's telling engineers to democratize. But at the same time, there are designers who code. So if a designer codes their design and gives it to the engineer, it's like nobody's going to like have like, it's not a problem, right? You're taking just one part of something, and the engineer can then like adapt it, fix it, change things, whatever. But it's just one step of helping everyone get the work done faster, especially in a situation where, again, you're the only researcher, you have to do with so many things, there's so many projects that need to be done. They need to be done, so why not enable the team to help them do it well? Yeah. So that's it for this episode. And in the next episode, I will talk about how to manage the influx of requests that you're actually getting. Bye. a quick reminder that I am accepting questions for the podcast. If you have any questions that you'd like me to cover, any things that you'd like me to talk about, please fill the form. I'm going to put the question form in the show notes. So, yeah, bye. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.